Today on Cruisin', presented by Cruisin' Times Magazine, we meet a guy that is
history buff, and it kind of went on steroids.
See his incredible collection of Templars, a car built in Lakewood, Ohio. Take a guess how much this beauty costs.
Paid a whole $200 for it.
And it's worth every penny. Here's a Pontiac Trans Am like you've never seen before.
And I didn't want it to be a joke anymore, you know, so that's why I did what I did.
That's really red. What color is that?
Really red.
Looks like I got it right then. How is Cruisin' so far?
Phenomenal.
Well, stick around for the rest of the show. Cruisin', presented by Cruisin' Times Magazine, starts right after this flashy thing. Welcome to Cruisin'. I'm John Shapiro, editor of Cruisin' Times Magazine. Today we're going to make two stops. First one is at the Templar Motor Car plant, right here. That's where we are. And we're going to be talking about this 1919 Templar Sportette. Then we're off to the Metro Health Burn Unit Car Show in Parma at the GM plant. Let's get started.
I was born and raised in this town. Knew nothing of it, okay, until my 30s. Which I found stunning, that there was a car company in this town I didn't know anything about, because I played in that park across the street when I was 3, 4, 5 years old, okay? So I found that out, and then, you know, that's kind of a, you know, I always thought it was maybe Winton, but Winton's down the street on Berea. So my fascination started to accelerate, and the story just kept rising. I mean, the elements of the story kept rising about this. It was just phenomenal. And so I had an opportunity, like I said, to buy Mr. Wasmer's car. I got into the, you know, that in about '95, and I started looking for parts. All right, and so when you start looking for parts, people start finding you, and they say, hey, I have cars for sale, and so you end up buying cars to get parts. And so I never thought it would go to this extent, but when I got 6 cars, I thought that maybe it would be possible to put on a display, and if I could get them back in the original plant, that would be ideal. And that was my goal. And so we've been here now 3 years. So I'm a Lakewood local kid, discovery of this, you know, kind of, you know, history buff, and it kind of went on steroids, okay? No Mr. Templar started this company. It was Templar Knights of the Masonic Order. All our management team was involved in the Masonic Order back in the teens and 20s. And so they chose the name Templar. And one thing you should note about Templar Motors that is different than the Templar Knights is that the Templar Knights have the insignia of 2 men riding on a horse because they vowed their life to poverty. On the Templar car, it's 1 man on a horse because it's all about the money. Actually, 1960, in October, was when they first formulated and organized the company financially. Production of the cars didn't start until November of 1917. They actually broke ground of this building in May of 1917, and it was a building 300 feet by 60 feet. And so the first 10 Templars were built down on West 78th in Baker, in the Standard Products Company of the American Ball Bearing Company of Baker Motors. The 2 key figures, Matthew Bramley and then Mr. Hunkin of Hunkin Conkey Construction, who actually built this building. So he was involved, he's vice president, and then Mr. Bramley's president of Trinidad Paving, the largest paving company in the world. Okay, so they were involved also at this time in building the Detroit Superior High Level Bridge. Okay, Mr. Hunkin Conkey Construction Company built it. Mr. Bramley of Trinidad Paving paved it. And the first car over the Detroit Superior Bridge is a Templar. The front ends were bought from American Ball Bearing. The rear ends were made from Standard Products, West 78th and Lake. Okay, the bodies, different vendors. Leon Roubaix at West 80th and Lake. So there's all these body manufacturers right here locally. Firestone, Akron, those are the original tires on that car. Okay, so it's a neighborhood car. I mean, literally, I have this mental image of going around with a shopping cart, picking up parts, okay, and putting them together, all right? So you had the frame from Parrish and Bingham, which was Midland Steel, 110th and Madison. Okay, then you had the front ends, which are from Standard Products at West 79th and in Baker, down by Lake Avenue. Okay, the rear ends, same company, all right? Engines they made themselves, bodies they bought from 4 different vendors, so they assemble these cars. Fords are in the $300–400 range. The sedan behind me is $3,795. Same year, okay? So 10 times the amount of a Ford. It would be a different sort to buy this car. One of the problems was they really were successful, okay? And they had all sorts of orders. The story goes that they had 4,000 orders for cars, okay? And lost them due to the fact that they only had one vendor for their rear end, and it was Standard Products. So they had to sue them, and then they found out that they were in financial peril. So they sued them and got all the dies, and then they bought into US Axle in Pennsylvania. So there was a lag of about 6 months that they couldn't really deliver cars. So they lost 4,000 orders for cars. And then, on top of that, they had a fire here in December of 1920 that destroyed part of the third floor here and destroyed 13 cars. They said that at that date, the damage was over $300,000. And if you do that kind of conversion factor thing in today's, it's at least an 18-to-1 kind of conversion factor of the expense. So it was devastating. Their banknote got called, and it was a weird, I think it was a poison pill, because it was called by US Axle, who they capitalized in, okay? And they were calling a bill for $12,000. And they then said, Templar came back and said, we're in like $8 million debt. And it's happened very quickly. And so the suit came and it was settled, and they decided to reorganize and go out of business. And that was the third reorganization that they went through. So really the luster from 22 to 24 really downhill.
Coming up,
Believe it or not, found this on eBay.
an astonishing find from halfway around the world next on Cruise In, presented by Cruisin' Times Magazine. Now back to the Templar Motor Company factory on Cruise In, presented by Cruisin' Times Magazine.
Our first car was in the building, believe it or not. And so that got us started. The gray one down here was George Wasmer's car of Lake Erie Screw. And it was in his office, and I used to kid him all the time about whenever you want to sell it. So he did. The original Roadsters in 1918 through 21 had no doors, okay? They added a right-hand door in 1921. This one has one. Templar was an international company, and I, believe it or not, found this on eBay. And it's the only right-hand drive known example of a Templar car. They shipped 1,100 internationally in 1920, in the summer of 1920, and we got it back. In 1919, it's second generation sedans, believe it or not, for Templar. The first one had center door, which was like a cockpit in an airplane. All right, this one has suicide doors, okay, and has a 4-door. But the original had only 2 doors, center door, and you'd go in and go in between the seats. There was no, passenger doors to get in and out. They're really identified with the Mortise Cross, which is really symbolic of the Templar Knights. The 8 points on the cross, as on the windows, is for the 8 Beatitudes, living by the virtues of the 8 Beatitudes. They actually have 8 spars in the ceilings of the hardtops. And it's, again, the 8 Beatitudes, the 8 points of the cross, the Mortise Cross. Symbolism, a lot of symbolism. I drove this one down to Stan Hewitt, and I had a guy come behind me, and I wanted to see how fast it could go. And that was probably a mistake, but I did it anyway. I got it up to 67, and it was like driving a park bench. And it was flailing all over. I mean, there's no, other than the spring shocks on here, that's it. There's no shock absorbers. It's a rigid frame, okay? And there's only rear brakes. And so it's a stop is a planned event, okay? You have to kind of gauge that. Touring, it's the biggest one. Actually found that in Terre Haute, Indiana, okay? And it was actually supposedly an original car, okay? You could get, the thing about Templars was that they had like 4 or 5 colors, and they offered 28 coats of paint on their cars. And you could get them also painted in any color you want, and I am told this is an original paint job. Now, it's been touched, but I want to also get back to that sedan and let you know it only has 375 original miles on it. So it's a very unusual car, and it's a one-only car. And also is the coupe as well. A friend of mine from Chicago called me and said, hey, there's a Templar pedal car for sale in an auction in New Jersey. So I inquired, and I found out that it was from Mr. Kaufman's estate of Kaufman Brothers department store in Pittsburgh, or KB Toys, which was all over nationally. And he was the largest collector of pedal cars in the United States, maybe the world. They had 8 different auctions, and I was lucky enough to bid on this car and win. Also, they were in the cab business. They sold 100 cabs to the city of Chicago, Templar cabs, and then also they invested and also delivered 15 cabs in Cleveland for the Waite taxi cab company, W-A-I-T-E, like Waite Hill. Different guy, it was a guy's name. It's kind of a special relationship to have the cars back in their original assembly room. My goal is to try and keep them here, but you know, I'm a realist. I'm 62 now and realized, you know, you don't get to take anything with you when you go. Not one thing. But you can maybe leave your footprint somewhere. So we're hoping at our best scenario to be able to leave this and have it for future generations to enjoy, because it's part of Lakewood's history. Very interesting part.
Coming up.
I'm in the Buick Club of America. I'm also in the American Cruisers. I'm also in the Oldsmobile Club of Ohio, America, and the Car Coddlers.
You're a busy guy. And you're next on Cruise In, presented by Cruisin' Times Magazine, after this. Welcome back to Cruise In, presented by Cruisin' Times Magazine.
I bought this car, I bought 2 of them for $500 with my paper route money in 1966 when I was 15 years old.
And tell us about this beautiful paint job. What's the name of it?
I work at a paint store, and I looked, when I was working on this car, I looked in the color chips every year, and I can never find the color. And then when I see a color, I'm going, well, it's already on how many cars now and how many other street rods. So I thought, I could do this. So I proceeded to make my own colors. I had it in my mind what I wanted. I wanted it to change. It's a red pearl candy. You can have pearls and you can have candies, but there's no such thing as a red pearl candy. I made this. I wanted it to change. And every time you take a picture of it, you can never get the same look out of it. It's always different.
And you call it?
Really red.
I love it. Tell us about now, you got what looks like a Mullins trailer.
Yes.
When did you get that?
I got that about 4 or 5 years ago. The reason why I did that is because when I go on places, I can't carry the right stuff with me. I either put it in the back seat or I hang it on the back of the luggage rack. I either have the right stuff or the wrong stuff. And going on a long trip, a gallon of water and a toolbox really comes in handy. So that's why I decided to get the trailer.
Tell us about the interior.
Interior, I didn't want the standard antique dash. I didn't want the standard blah interior. So I designed the interior. I drew up the dash the way I wanted it. And then I designed the door panels so they would flow. It's a wraparound dash, and the dash flows into the door panels. I only had a few pieces chrome. The radiator shell. The radiator shell was original, and it was in bad shape, and I couldn't find a decent one, so I had a place down in Wintersville that did that and chromed that. I worked on this car. I started working on this car in the late 70s, and I can only spend 5–10 hours a week on it because of other commitments. And I finally got it done in 2000.
Bought it in Jackson, Michigan. Found it in Hemmings. Externally, I've done nothing to the vehicle. If I can make it out to a cruise during the week, I will. On the weekends, I'm usually not home. I'm in the Buick Club of America. I am membership chairman for Northeast Ohio. I'm also in the American Cruisers. I'm also in the Oldsmobile Club of Ohio, America, and the Car Coddlers.
How many little sections are in your grill?
The grill is a two-piece grill, and there are 160 squares. So it takes time to clean. Only twice a year.
Twice a year?
Only twice a year, yeah.
And then the rest of the time?
The bugs will eventually come off. This car was originally a California car. It was restored in 1983. It took the gentleman about 8 to 12 months, and it cost him $12,000 to redo it. Being that this was a California car, it comes with factory air, power steering, power brakes, factory front seat, and tinted windows. So, and it's a bluish tint windows as opposed to the greenish tint. This is called Colonial Blue with Glacier White top. Those are official colors for the car. The motor and tranny were redone in '83. This is a 364 cubic inch engine with 300 horsepower. It's over 5,000 with everything on it.
You paid through the nose for this car, I understand.
Yeah, I paid a whole $200 for it. And then I had to completely rebuild the whole body from bottom up. And it took me 9 years. And the first car was a 70. I had parts off of that on here. And finally got it on the road, and this is how it turned out.
It's beautiful. How did you find it, though?
A friend of mine took me out to a garage on the east side. There was a used car lot in the garage, and sitting between a couple of Chevys. And I looked at it. I couldn't get too close to it. The motor was half missing. It had a 340 in it at that time. So I offered him $200. He wanted 3, but I bought it for 2. I refer to it as, how you call it, army green. It was ugly with a white top.
And what's the official color now?
It's just some kind of white, light blue off a '96 Dodge Dakota truck. And we dyed the top black. We did all the interior work ourselves.
Tell us about the motor now. You got a 440 in it?
Got a 440 in it. That was from the 70 that I had to scrap out. So I took the good stuff off, put it on this one, and put the 440 in the tranny in this car. Got it home and finally got it running, and it was a long 9 years because it sat a couple of times for 2 years, nothing was done.
So tell me, what's the biggest challenge during your build-up?
Getting parts. Just aftermarket stuff is good up to a point. Most of the stuff was either off of a 70 to a 72 Challenger.
Next on Cruise In.
With the modifications on it, we've got 700 horses at the crank with another 250 shot of nitrous on top of that.
This bird really can fly. Coming up next on Cruise In, presented by Cruisin' Times Magazine. Now, back to Cruise In, presented by Cruisin' Times Magazine. Been staring at this car all day, one of the wildest looking '79 Pontiac Trans Ams I've ever seen.
We blew up the car, or I should say I blew up the car 4 years ago at the racetrack, and every cloud's got a silver lining, so when it happened I decided, okay, we're gonna go all in and customize it and make it the way I want to make it. And the doors was the first thing I did.
So where'd you get the idea to do the gull wing?
I've seen a lot of cars, you know, Lamborghinis and, you know, Mercedes gull wings and, you know, different doors like that. And I decided, you know what, I want something different on a second generation F-body, something that I haven't seen before. And that's kind of what drove me to do the things I did. I wanted it to be different and one of a kind. The doors, the hinges are actually vertical door hinges. I think they're from Vertical Door. I'm not sure about that, but they're just a basic vertical door hinge. It was not made for this car. I had to modify and fabricate it to make it work on this car.
How about the motor now? You got, it looks like a pretty hefty piece here.
I'm partial to Oldsmobiles, so I decided to stick with an Oldsmobile motor. I went with a 1968 F-Block 455. When all is said and done, with the modifications on it, we've got 700 horses at the crank with another 250 shot of nitrous on top of that.
Which you have or have not used?
I have not used it yet. There really is no place legal on the street to do that.
Good that you said that. Wheels, I noticed it looked like the steering wheel matches the wheels.
They're 15-inch polished aluminum. The reason I went with a different rim was because I wanted everybody to see all the brake work that I did underneath it. I actually found a steering wheel that matches the rims, and I thought, perfect final piece to the puzzle.
I mean, lucky.
Yeah, just blind luck, basically, on that one.
Tell us about when you first got this. Where did you get it, and how long you had it?
I bought it in 1981 for $7,500, which back then was a lot of money, but I was young, I had a job, and I could make payments. I bought it from my uncle. It was a 1979 10th anniversary limited edition, 6,000 miles only, mint condition. I had the car ever since then, and it wasn't until about 2005 that I started actually getting into modifying it, because let's face it, back then 185 horsepower from the factory on the last muscle car was pretty much a joke, and I didn't want it to be a joke anymore, you know, so that's why I did what I did.
Anything next on the horizon? What?
I would love to get another 79 10th anniversary for my wife. We were actually married in this car, and my idea and her idea of what a cool car is are two completely different things. Her idea of a cool car is a out of the showroom, bone stock, mint condition. To her, that's perfection. Obviously, this is perfection for me, so, you know, but we get along just fine. There's no problems, you know, so she loves what I did to it, and she's very proud of me for it, and that's a huge compliment coming from her, so we're good.
Well, that wraps it for another edition of Cruise In. I'm John Shapiro. I want to thank Dave Bueller and his Templar collection. I also want to thank the folks at Metro Health and GM for their car show assistance. Right now, I'm going to take a look at this 1921 Roadster.